And we are live. Hello, North Carolina Realtors. Happy Monday. My name is Bennett. Today, we're going to talk about using video to inspire action without wasting a lot of time or money, because let's be honest, that is really what's holding a lot of us back. So, as I said, my name is Bennett. I'm a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, which we will come back to why that's important in a moment. I'm a writer and a video marketer, and I have a company called 6 Second Stories. And what we do is help people tell heartfelt stories that inspire action and maximize their impact in minimal time. So back to the documentary filmmaking part. Why that's important is because I've made a whole career off of telling good stories and connecting with humans through these stories without a lot of time, money, resources, crew, equipment. And so, fortunately for you all, hopefully, I now have gained some knowledge on how to be impactful with all those limitations. And the thing I see is why I started the business that I have, the gap that I see, how I wanted to help people is that we all now have this demand to create content, specifically video content, consistently, quality content. And not all of us are writers and filmmakers and artists. And so a lot of times, many times, most times, you have people that are struggling and kind of spinning in circles and not knowing how to use all these new tools that we have at our disposal. So this is what we're trying to talk about today. And I see most of the people who do these Mobile Mondays, and most of them are realtors. Full disclosure, I'm not a realtor. I did have my real estate license at one point. However, I do come from a real estate lineage, and I have a realtor in the house with me today who came up to watch the Super Bowl with my brother and me yesterday. Congrats to the Chiefs. Sorry to the 49ers. Mom, you want to come peek your head in and say hey? This is where I get all my real estate knowledge. This is Geraldine, now McKinley. Just give a little wave to the people. Hi. Hello. All right, don't steal all my shine now. I'm going to kick her out now. She's in the living room trying to soak up all this knowledge for free. Yes. So my mom, besides being adorable and funny and a little crazy, is a great example of what we want to talk about today. Now, we don't have a ton of time, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about her story because it's, one, inspirational, and two, it applies to the essence of what we're going to talk about today. So my mom, it was her dream to be in real estate. And I had one of those dads who was threatened by, a woman trying to I don't know, like gain knowledge and make something of themselves. And so she never had the chance to go to school and pursue a career. She was very involved in our lives. So when she separated from my dad and got off on her own, finally in 2005, she set out to become a realtor. And very quickly, she started her own company. And I come from Little Washington, North Carolina. It's a small town on the river, but there's a lot of tourism and a lot of people having their second homes there. And she started off her business, and just her and her partner, it kind of took off immediately. This is 2005. They were doing really well and making waves, as their slogan was, Coastal Rivers Realty. And then we all know what happened about 2007, 2008. Everything tanked. So all these companies that had popped up during the boom selling these waterfront properties had all gone away, except for the biggest company in town that had been the number one for 30 years, Century 21, and Coastal Rivers, which was now a Coldwell Banker franchise. Since then, and I don't know their numbers this year, but I think 2018, when they were starting off, they were selling in their worst times 15, 17 million. Now it's what, Mom? 91 million. The thing is, and when I tell this story when I'm traveling around the country, this is at a market where the average listing is like $150,000. So this is like 660 listings or something. And now they're the number one company in that market and have been for a while. And I am proud of my mom because she's consistently, if she's not the top producer, she's one of the top 3 every year. But here's the thing and why it applies to what we're talking about today. She uses no social media at all. Nothing. Not even Facebook, which everybody's grandma's on Facebook, right? So I sat down and honestly talked to her one day about her philosophy when it comes to marketing, when it comes to social media. And she said this really great line that was like, well, I feel like if I'm consumed with social media, then I'm making it all about me and not my clients and the properties that I'm representing, right? This is her still talking. My goal is to build a relationship with the person, a lasting relationship, so that they come back and we continue to do business as the years go on. So I love that. And a lot of times our issues are we're looking for tools that make our jobs easier, and we're afraid of doing the hard work of really building connections and relationships, right? And I think this is what we should strive to do. However, I'm going to pick on her a little bit. She's wrong, because we can do this. We can achieve that with social media. Now, she has a very fair point, because most people don't, and it is kind of about us. But social media, at its best, what it was intended to do was to build relationships, communities, and give us a platform to have conversations and engage with each other. So the thesis of this presentation about using video is, if you sharpen the skill and understand the art and science of storytelling, then no matter what tools you have access to, if all you have is this right here, you can connect and engage and build relationships with your audience and your customer and your community through storytelling. So before we go any further, I'd like you to do me a favor. I put this in the description. Let me know when you're signing in. Let me know where you are in the state. Let me know who you work for, how long you've been in real estate. But specifically, I want this session to be as interactive as possible. Okay, I can talk about this stuff all day long for hours. This is what I do for a living. So it does us no good if I'm not helping you all. So please let me know why you're attending today, why you're listening. And what I mean by that is, what do you seek to gain? What are you struggling with? Okay. What are you struggling with when it comes to video? There's a reason you clicked on this. So as far as I see it, when it comes to video marketing, there's a few problems. When it comes to storytelling, which is a big buzzword right now, we all know we need to be video storytelling. One of the problems is people think there's one story to tell, that we just tell our brand story and that's it. There's not. There are countless stories to tell. And what I hope to help you see by the end of this session is how to turn your case studies, i.e. clients that you've helped, into case stories. As my friend John Livesey says, case studies into case stories. Every interaction you have with a client is another story that you can tell. Okay. Another problem. We know what we need to do. We even know why we need to do it. We know we need to use video. That's why you're watching this Facebook Live right here. We know that we need to use digital storytelling, but most of us don't know how to do it. We don't know where to start. And that's a problem. We can talk about the theory, but we don't know how to apply it. Next two are very common, and they're in the title of this description. Nobody has time, and nobody has the money to do it or outsource it. That's a big problem. Hey, Wendy. Restarting my business and need to focus on my brand. Heard that. So here's a quick tangent pivot to Wendy's concern. Start now. This is something that people overlook and neglect because you have to build a business and there's so much you have to do. I get it. My goal here today is to calm us all down and have us focus on the simple basics first. Why we don't do anything is because we think it's super complex and it's going to take all this time and money, and it doesn't have to. Simple baby steps first, but the sooner you start, it's just like investing. The sooner you start, the more rewards you'll yield from it. So nobody has the time and money. Inaction is the enemy. We're so fearful sometimes of putting ourselves out there or trying something new that what do? The worst thing possible, we do nothing. That is what I want us not to do. We're overwhelmed by the options. There's so much equipment and gadgets. There's so many different platforms and social media channels and so many options these days. And the next best thing comes out every week that we're overwhelmed. We get analysis paralysis, comparing all the ones. Well, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I use Instagram? What's an Instagram story? Should I use Facebook? What about TikTok? TikTok's pop. Do I have to do the TikTok dances now? So we're overwhelmed by all these options. And what do? We go back to the previous nothing. We do nothing. And then lastly, we seek tools that do the work for us. The tool is right here. It's yourself. It's understanding your customer and your client and having empathy for their situation and understanding they're struggling and trying to connect with them and build a relationship and show them how you can ease their struggles. It's not about the tools. It's about building relationships. And the way to do that with whatever tools you have is through storytelling. We're going to talk about video, but this applies to text captions or just text posts on your social media. This applies to, yes, of course, making video, but it also applies to just when you're with somebody. When you tell someone a story, they listen and they lock into it, unlike anything else. Unlike data and bullet points and stats and information, we tune that stuff out. We are designed to listen to, absorb, and understand through storytelling. Not only that, it's been proven, scientifically proven, that when we're all consumed in a narrative, we're so much more likely to take action. And that's the goal. You can produce video content for the rest of the year, every day, every week. And if it doesn't make people take action and what you want them to do, in this case, probably buy a house, then what's the point? You've been spinning your tires for a year. You're going to get exhausted and you're going to quit. We're going to go back to the basics. So speaking of basics, let's talk about what a story is. That may seem simple, and it's so simple that it gets overlooked all the time. Most people don't understand that a story has a beginning and a middle and an end. That's the first part. There's a structure. What's the beginning? What's the middle? What happens? And then how does it end? What's the resolution? The beginning is a once upon a time, right? There's a status quo. There's once upon a time there's somebody who lived in this house. And then what kicks off the middle part is a problem that arises. They have unexpected twins, and they need to get a bigger house. What kicks them off on that new journey where they're looking for a new place to live? The kids moved out of the house, and now they've got this huge house to maintain, and they're entering their third act of life. Well, now they want to downsize. So there's something that kicks them off in that journey. And then at some point, somebody, that's you, swoops in and helps them achieve that goal. And then that takes us to the third act, which is resolution. So beginning, middle, and end. When you're getting testimonials from people, or you're talking about someone you serve and you're just kind of talking about the information, they don't connect with that. They don't understand that. But I promise you, the people that you've already served, there are other people like them out there. So those people are such a big part of understanding how we use video storytelling to connect with our community. You have to understand what people are going through, right? So there's internal problems and then there's external problems, right? The external problem is like, I need a new house, right? The physical problem that they have, that they're trying to overcome. But what I want us to try to do is tap into the internal problem. What's really going on here? There's depending on your age, you may or may not remember Ted Levitt he wrote this piece, Marketing Myopia. And he said, people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole. Does that make sense? Like, nobody just wants the drill for no reason. There's something they're trying to achieve. If you're a little more current, you may know Seth Godin, who's kind of a marketing guru, and he took that to the next level. He's like, well, let's peel it back a little bit more, because nobody really wants a 1/4-inch hole. Why do you want a 1/4-inch hole? What are you going to do with that? And it says, well, you want a 1/4-inch hole because what you really want is a place to put an expansion bolt that'll open up and hold the shelf you can put on it. But you don't really want a shelf for no reason. What you want is a place to put your books. And you probably didn't necessarily need that if you weren't riddled with anxiety because things are strode all over your office, right? And you need some place to put your books so that you're more organized. But when you really get to the core of it, that's something that's happening here and here. It's really about cleaning it up so you can have a clean environment. Does that make sense? So this is the kind of thing that stories are about, is tapping into, what am I really serving this customer for or with? And then you can understand how, right? So just like we have internal and external problems, we have physical goals and emotional goals. This is like in the movie where, you know, the goal is to get the girl or win the game, but emotionally, even if they don't achieve the goal, they needed to learn something about themselves, right? They needed to just accept themselves or forgive their father or whatever. But those emotional goals, that's what we're trying to tap into. Like, what is this person really looking for in their lives? So a lot of people talk about message, and message is a lot different than story. So I want you to think about how you can tell your story where it has a logical narrative, beginning, middle, and end. There is a storytelling map that, and I can send you guys links to all this, a storytelling map that I use for my clients. And it's 4 parts, 4 chambers. And the first part is people. Who is this story about? So when you're thinking about, okay, I've got my phone, I'm going to make a video story for Instagram or Facebook, think about, who is this story about and who is it for? Who's listening? That should dictate the kind of story that you tell, okay? Secondly, what's the purpose? What's it trying to achieve? What's it trying to really convey? It's not just talking about yourself. There's got to be an objective that we're trying to achieve with it. Third, what's the plot? What is the story? What happens? What's the beginning, middle, and end? Okay. And then lastly, place. Where does it live in the world? In this day and age, we've already kind of alluded to, there's a lot of different places you can put your stories, and you need to think about that platform before you create that story. What's it going to look like? What dimensions are it going to be? Is it going to be vertical video, so it's on Instagram stories? Is it going to be square? Is it going to be horizontal? How long should it be? A lot of these things will be dictated by where you put them on. Carla, sorry, I'm seeing a question from Carla saying that she has not used videos on all our association page, and you need to be better at it. Okay, so to your point, Carla, if you want to be better at it, here's what I've learned. Reduce it to the simplest form. What's something that you can realistically achieve? A lot of times we make it that these ideas and these have to be so grandiose, and it's like, well, if it's going to be a good video, it's got to be a lot of production value and flashes and motion graphics, and it doesn't. What's something that you can do every week? Can you sit down and take your phone and take a little smartphone tripod and set it up and just do a weekly Facebook Live on Mondays talking about some of the people you've helped and why you're in this business, and showing a little empathy, understanding your people? Can you do that? Maybe that's too much. Maybe it's once a month, but dial it down to the most realistic, achievable goal, and then be consistent with it. And I can't stress that enough. If you do it once or twice or 3 times, and then we never hear from you again, it's going to be the same effect as if you didn't do it, right? So think about how you can consistently put out this content. Can you check in with people every day and say, hey, here's a property that we just listed. It's beautiful. I think it's perfect for this type of person or this type of family. Here's a few features about it, and just put a little heart and soul behind it, not just listing the stats. People can find that information. You want to give them a place to find that information. But if you're using video to connect with your audience, especially without wasting a lot of time or money, then you need to go to the heart of the people and the heart of their problems, right? That is empathy, and that's storytelling. What questions do we have about video? Is there anything specifically that I can answer for you guys? I have a tip to don't try to cover it all in one video. Go smaller. Think about how you can tell a small story, like I said, a case study maybe of someone you've helped, to explain the bigger issue, right? To explain who you serve and the markets you serve. Go smaller. Have one story, one message, one goal from that video, and then continue to do video content. So, a couple of tips just on how to create your own story. I've told you about the beginning, the middle, and the end. Again, if you want these, I can send you some slides that have this information on it. Just send me a message and I'll link it to you. When you're creating a story, one, start with the problem. What's the problem that these people face? What are they struggling to overcome? Two, identify, that's a great question, Raquel. Two, identify your characters. We talked about that. Keep it simple. Know your goal and be clear. And then, this is important as well, weave your data into the story. There are going to be stats that you have to include, but weave that into the narrative. That's going to make people latch on to it, pay attention to it, and most importantly, remember it way more. So Raquel asked, what video editing software do you recommend for beginners? So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that we're on mobile for this, okay? If you have an iPhone, and look, this is how I have my iPhone organized. Can't really see it, but I have a section just for video. So if you have an iPhone, it comes with iMovie. Super easy to learn, very user-friendly. Play around with it a little bit. There's a lot of options for this. And there's another one called Quick. Let's see if you can use that. It's that Q, but it's Q-U-I-K. There's no C in it, right? It's an app. It's got to be spelled funky, or most likely someone already had Quick with the C. There's someone else who uses, they tell me about that. But there's Clips, there's Quick, there's iMovie, there's several, but iMovie and Quick would be the two that I recommend. They're very simple and easy to learn, but these change so much. So this is a perfect example. There's going to be a new editing software every 6 months. That's easier, faster, does more cool stuff. But if you don't know how to use it, then it's irrelevant, right? If you don't know, and what I mean by that is not just how to push the buttons and move pieces around, but if you don't know how to be impactful and connect with people through it, then it's not going to work. So look at, and simple Google search, like mobile video editing apps, because there's a ton of them. My recommendations, again, are iMovie and Quick without the C. But there's a lot, and really it comes down to like which one's comfortable for you. So you kind of have to get in there and play around with them a little bit, but understand how to use it first and how to connect with people through video. So Wendy asked another great question, which I get a lot. What's a good length guideline for people to not lose patience? Huge question. You know, you hear this stat every conference that I go to, marketing conference, somebody's up there talking about the stat that's totally overused now about humans having shorter attention spans than goldfish, which may or may not be true, but the goldfish's attention span is 8 seconds and ours is shorter than that. Yeah, you got to grab somebody quickly for sure. But here's the flip side. What they don't say is that if you tell a story, it's been proven that people will hang on and be attentive way longer if you're latching them with a good story. And that's the point of why I emphasize this so much, because you can have the tools, you can do what best practices are and whatever length they say, but if you're not connecting with people, they're going to tune out. Doesn't matter if it's a 6-second video or a 60-minute video. If it's good enough, they'll listen. However, there are some points I'd like to make about that, Wendy. One, depending on the platform, it'll dictate that for you. Okay, so if I'm on Instagram, the feed has a 60-second limit. Instagram TV or IGTV, however, which you can share to your Instagram feed now, has a much longer limit. I think it's 10 minutes. It may even be longer. Facebook doesn't really have any limitations. Twitter has, I think, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So it depends on the platform. You may have to recut some of your videos, or think about, well, if I just make a 30-second one and it can be played almost anywhere. my suggestion, depending on the video, I mean, look, we've been going 25 minutes now, and there's actually more people viewing now than there were at the 5-minute mark. But 30 to 90 seconds is good. And I love to leave this question on a quote from my college English professor. We were talking about the length of papers. Totally applies. It's still grabbing people's attention. He said it should be, he was Scottish. He was like, it should be like a man's kilt. Long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to stay interesting. So take that and do what you will with it. But it's a totally relevant question, and often we limit ourselves there. I don't know how long to make this video. So we got a few more minutes. I'm happy to stay around. I am actually going to put this in the comments. Every Monday, which today is Monday, I have a weekly storytelling tip from my website. And so I'm just going to put that link if that would help any of you all. You can subscribe to that. And every week I give just a short email that that talks about a different storytelling tip strategy that you can apply pretty immediately. And I'm always reachable. You can email me at rain@6secondstories. You can follow me on Instagram at rainbennett. rainbennett.com is where you can see storytelling tips. But please let me know. I still have a few more minutes here for questions, but I appreciate Carla and Wendy and Raquel. Those are great questions. Keep it simple. I have one more. The thing about doing it in a short amount of time, and this is a great little list. Again, I can send you guys these if you want. Lose the intro. You don't need a preamble. A lot of people start off with like, hey, this is so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. It's Monday, da-da-da. And it's like, we've already tuned out. Back to the 6-second thing. Like, they're gone. Go ahead and get to the point. Guys, you'll never believe who I helped or the customer that I served this weekend. Boom, already. It's like, oh, well, why won't I believe it? What happened? You've hooked them in the beginning, okay? Get to the point. Cut the fat. You'll get better with time with this, but don't ramble. Don't be redundant. Keep only the necessary information. Show, don't tell. This is the number one rule in screenwriting. So if you can paint a picture with your words, that's going to be super impactful. If you can show them with your visual images, even better, okay? Show them the house versus talking about it, right? Play to their senses and be memorable. Anything that you can do to switch up the pattern or kind of stand out. That can be humor, that can be mystery, that can be like, guys, you won't believe what happened next. And you're going to tell them what happened next, but you've just built up, you've spiked that tension a little bit, and that's what locks them in. That's what makes them pay attention. One story, one message, and have a clear call to action. What do you want them to do? Now that you've gotten them all hooked and they're listening to this story, where do you want to take their emotions? What do you want them to do? Do they click on this link? Do they check out the house that you just posted? Think about that, okay? You want to connect with them and inspire them to take action, but then you got to give them somewhere to go. Okay. There's a character journey. Every movie goes through this journey, and if you watch movies now, you can see this happening to the main character. This is the character's journey and how I want you to think about the people that you're serving, and then you can understand what kind of stories you can tell people. Who's the character? Simple. What do they want? Remember, we talked about internal and external problems and emotional and physical goals. What do they want? What's stopping them from getting it? They're struggling, right? If they're seeking something, they're trying to overcome something or achieve a goal, something is getting in the way. What is that? Who or what comes along to help them? That should be you. How do they end up getting it? You showed them that, or you sold them the house. And then lastly, what's the happily ever after? How do they change as a result? Now they finally found the house. They sold their big house after their kids left, and they found this beautiful little townhouse with low maintenance on the water in eastern North Carolina, and they go sailing every weekend. Oh my gosh, it sounds like a dream. Would you like that? Would you like to have a dream like that? Yes, of course they would. That's how you connect with them. Tell them the story of someone else you helped, and think about, what do people really care about when they're buying a home? What do you really, what need are you serving, right? All right. We are about at 30-minute mark, and I think that's my cap. Thank you all for spending your time with me today. This Facebook Live will live here on the Mobile Mondays private Facebook group, so you can come back to this. You can refer back to it. You can share this with anybody else. If you're out there and you got some value out of the information I doled out today, hit the little thumbs up or the heart on the emoji in the comment section. And if you're out there in the video marketing world, give me a shout. I'm here to serve you. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you have a great and productive week. Go tell your stories. You got a ton of them. Peace and love.